from the first time I met him, I wanted more. I wanted to know him, and he's a unique person, and he's so eccentric, and that almost helps. And every time I see he and my stepmother, I just like I think I said in the book, I sort of pretend I'm meeting, I know he's my father, but just some eccentric older friends. So there's a touching quality between us despite how complicated and strange it is. So Karis Jagger also had a similar thing where her parents had her but weren't married, and her father more famous than mine, Mick Jagger, but early on he was more interested in he in fact is still all his kids, they go on holiday. He's like, welcome to the family. He's very good at that. He just is able to do that like all fathers should. But when I was young, she started knowing him when she was really little, like 6 or 7, which some people would say that's not that little, but Jerry Hall was sort of instrumental in really facilitating that because she was with Mick Jagger, and I think she knew, she's like, you have 2 daughters and you don't see them as much as I would think you should. And I want to have a bunch of kids. She wanted like 10 kids. She said, if I'm going to have kids with you, you've got to be the kind of father I hope you're going to be with our kids.
Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. Everybody listen today. You're going to know this because most of our listeners are Gen X women. We have Ione Skye on today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, Ione has just released a book in the past probably week or 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
It is titled Say Everything. So, Say Everything in Memoir, which, is very similar to the one of the movies that we know her so well from, Say Anything. And it is really such a wonderful, I don't know, compelling, just it's almost, I always say, soul bearing story.
hmm
Why did you feel like this was such a good time to release and write this book?
Well, there was some interest in what sparked the thought was there was a podcast called Celebrity Book Club, and these two women talk about, memoirs and things, and they were curious how my mother would let me at such a 16 date a 24-year-old drug addict musician. And so I sort of did a clap back or whatever it's called, saying, well, my mother was really sick to her stomach over it. And then people were just curious about the 90s, and I just wanted to talk about my life, with my father's Donovan, the musician, and what it was like for me. And I'm kind of a remote person to most people, but my friends know me. So it felt just really good to have people know my mind and how I feel and my side of things in a broader sense. And just the whole project had such a good feeling, and there was so much interest, and it felt very good. So it just felt like the right time. Well, I'm not that old, but I felt old enough to handle myself.
Yeah, I think I know that podcast. I didn't hear
Uh,
that particular thing that they said, but I
hmm
that podcast. And you have daughters. I have a 29-year-old daughter. I have a son that's 32. And I do feel, I grew up in that time. I'm a few years older than you, but I grew up in that time.
hmm
And it was different. It's not saying that it's okay, but it was different. It was very
Yeah.
different. And I love that what was your older daughter just said, hey, she questioned what in the world, in the book you talk about that. How I don't know, how does she or how do your daughters kind of reconcile with that now?
Yeah, well, their generation just thinks it's bizarre and not right. And it's almost funny because when you're Gen X or whatever, you just look back and you think, well, yeah, I mean, if something wasn't too horrible, wasn't it all right? And other people kind of, we were all sort of the same way, and so it didn't stand out. But now looking back, it does seem kind of wild the way we were living. But of course, at the time, it almost didn't feel so strange. Yeah, I love that my daughters are way more, I don't know, they have more boundaries. Like just watching them with their friendships and their boyfriends, they're just very they just take care of themselves better than I did. You know, they seem to kind of listen to how they're feeling. And so all of that talk that has been going on, consent, all of these things is so good. And thankfully, they're a little healthier mentally than I was.
Same, same
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
I watch
So,
them. I'm like, wow, you're not like waiting by the phone for the boy to call. Like they're kind of more confident, which is really good.
yeah, I'm thrilled to see that with this generation of girls. And, and when reading your book, I just felt so much for your mother. I really felt for your mother. And it just came through that she was so caring, that she just did what she had to do for you and your older brother. How, I don't know. Could you just share how that was to feel abandoned?
Yeah. Well, I was very close to my grandparents, her parents, and they were just family. You know, they would do anything for us. And I think she just had that example, just family first, you know, just very, very, into the family in a really strong way. And just that was it. There was not, you just like care about your kids. And so she just had that way. She grew up that way. So even though she was a single mother and in survival mode and really worried about that, she just always cooking, bedtime, everything was kind of like that stuff was really functioning and just, worried when we had a cold and I don't know, all of those warm and she's just naturally she's just naturally the warmest, most caring, likes the underdog with her friends when they need help. She just is like that. She's kind of nicer than I am. I'm amazed. She's always like, we should have lunch with this woman. She's not, my friend. She's not doing well. I'm like, what an angel. I feel more selfish.
Yeah, she really, the closeness, I could really tell the closeness between your brother and your mother. And I think that even though, we all go through things, we all do things that we look back and think, why did I do that? But
Hmm.
you still have that love there. And I think that your book really, I don't know, that was something that really got to me is that,
Yeah, she definitely was worried those few years, but since my first sort of relationship, I've been a pretty, I've gone through my love life stuff, but I've been pretty good. So thankfully, she wasn't too worried about me. But yes, she would never turn her back. She's just not that kind of person.
yeah, it was evident. And do you mind sharing a little bit about that relationship that you were in with
Oh,
Anthony Kiedis? Just,
with Anthony.
yeah,
Yeah, I met him and I honestly, fortunately, never, even though I grew up in a bohemian lifestyle, we never had people who had serious drug problems in the house like that. So when I heard I did a movie with Flea, who's in the Ch Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he was talking about my best friend, he's in rehab, and I just was so young, I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I had no idea. And then when I met him, I don't know. I wasn't, I never really fell in love, but I got very ensnarled in, he's very interesting. I loved him and cared about him. And before I knew it, we were dating and we were living together. And I was just sort of, I don't know why. I thought I was curious about him and that group. It seemed so interesting, but scary. And then before I knew it, I was kind of over my head and kind of hiding out, because when, people are in that situation as drug addicts, they hide. So I just was sort of like embarrassed and hiding him in a weird way. And then my life got a bit small, but luckily I was doing like say anything. And when I would be working, I would feel vibrant, good when I was around my friends. So thankfully, the contrast of like, wait, when I'm with Anthony in our apartment and watching him, be crazy and leave and come back and I'd feel terrible. And when I'm here with my friends working and stuff, I feel like normal and myself. So thankfully that I snapped out of that relationship. But it was really awful, to be honest. I mean, I love him and I'm, happy. I think he's doing well. We don't really see each other a lot, but there's some love there still because he really made like big amends, proper amends to me. But that was gnarly and I feel for myself that I had to go through that.
yeah. I mean, and you were 16 years old.
16, 17, yeah.
I mean,
Crazy.
when I was a 16-year-old, if Anthony Kiedis had asked me to, I would have done anything I could to have moved in with him.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Kentucky, so that might as well have been the moon. But I understand this feeling when you're 16 and you
Yeah.
have this thing, this dream or whatever, and you think, wow, this person,
And you have no
oh,
history, at least luckily for me, I didn't know what I was getting into. And then it was like a little bit too late until I realized, oh, you don't have to do this actually. But yeah, it was now I would see something like that and think, oh, God bless you, but I'm not going, I'm not moving in with you. But then I didn't know what I was in for.
right. Yeah. Well, we learn that with age. I mean, we just
Hmm.
learn that as we get older. There's,
Mm.
okay, that maybe wasn't a good idea to do that. And then
Hmm.
you also, because you were doing the acting, you had signed the emancipation so you could work.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That was part of it. And my mother was actually nervous about that because she didn't know the business inside and out. Like she wasn't like a, savvy. But she knew she had some friends who were creative. But when that started, she was a little nervous. Like, what does this mean? And it did make me feel a little bit like I'm a grown up now. So it did what she hoped it wouldn't do, which was make me think I was a grown up. But the industry or the producers explained, oh, this will just, she'll work a little longer hours like an adult, but it won't really mean much. But it actually did make me feel a little older, and I don't know if that was so good at that time, or if I should have just stayed home and, worked, but from my house, not in an apartment with Anthony.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it did sound really, really rough. And
Hmm.
I mean, I really haven't been around someone that was that addicted, but just seeing other people who are addicted and how hard that is.
Yeah.
And just to
Yeah.
see that he's still alive.
Oh, I know. He's like we were joke that he's like a tiger. I think his Chinese astrology sign is tiger or something. And I remember reading about it in one of those books, and it was like they're like a cat. They have like 9 lives. And I was like, well, he really has 9 lives.
He
He is.
must.
Well, if there's any truth to all this stuff, I don't know. Because he's
Yeah.
like a cat like that.
Oh, well, that is just like that's amazing. But also kind of going back to your childhood, um, like your mom, your father never even you didn't meet him till you were 17 years old.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I feel for you there too. I mean, I try to put myself in someone else's shoes like that. And in my age, a lot of people had divorced parents,
Hmm.
but very few had the parent never see them.
Yeah.
So
I
that,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard to understand what that did to me as a kid because it was somebody so out of the picture. But I do think it weirdly, I don't know, I feel like it almost you internalize a bit of feeling ashamed or something, or that, you can't not. I probably felt there was something wrong with me from a certain deep level, but it was hard for me to really analyze and understand how that affected me except to see my actions looking for love to such a, furious way. Like I used to sort of joke, if I had put this much ambition in my career as I did in my love life, I'd be a way bigger star, because I really just motivated to find that love. But yeah, it must I think it made me feel insecure on a deep level. And it was really weird seeing other households where the dad was around, especially the more normal ones that weren't like just the musician. Because some of my friends had musician dads, but they were even divorced, but they were around. Yeah, I think when I saw that and kids calling their fathers dad or daddy, I was like, what is that? And then I felt really sad. Like, I want that. I want that thing. I want the dad. So it was, it is really sad.
Yeah, it's hard because children, when they feel, I'm a former elementary school teacher, and when children feel different, even though you can give them all the love, and like your mother did, I mean, it is so evident that your mother did, and you can give them all the love that you have, but when they feel that they're different from someone else, it's
Yes.
tough. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And then it made me want to kind of fit in a lot and all of those things that happen. But yeah, feeling different is hard when you're a kid, for sure. Going into someone else's house and it seems more regular and you just feel like, oh. And
Yeah.
it's funny, sometimes I would think this is weird. Their house is weird, but it was probably just different and I didn't know how to kind of understand that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we had you mentioned Moon Zappa, and we've interviewed her as well when she
Oh,
came out with her book, and it was lovely too. And it is amazing when I think I said this to her. I said, you know, I grew up in the middle of the country and just like looking at people like you and people like Moon and thinking they must have a fabulous life. But when you share these stories, it really makes us understand everybody has these insecurities. It,
yeah, I
you know,
know.
everybody has these. I know one of the things, like when you were talking about River's Edge, and this is me identifying as this teenage girl that never thought that I was pretty enough or thin enough. And you said the guy said something about your Irish sweater. And
Yeah.
I said, I would have loved to have had the body you had when I was that age.
Yeah, I mean, I look back and I can't believe I was insecure. I mean, there was times when whatever, like, I don't know, in my 20s where I was eating a lot and sure, I was a little whatever, like Hollywood standards, fine. But then those parts where I was absolutely even like thinnish, I can't believe, I think I just would focus on one part. And back then, voluptuous wasn't as big as it is now. Now it's very popular. So I think it's also what's in the time. Like I would have done really well with like my bum being like that. And it wasn't even like anyway, it's so insane when I look back as well and I think, why was I worried?
Right.
They
It's
say
amazing. But
enjoy it because you'll 10 years later you'll look back and say, why was I hard on myself? So I'm still doing that now. Like I'm just enjoy everything because in 20 years you'll look back and think, wow, why was I worrying about this and that? Because now I'm 20 years older. You know what I mean?
it's exactly, I mean, going through the same thing. And I'm so happy today to see just girls of all sizes, just
Yeah.
all the time. I love it when I'm on the beach and I see this girl with this bikini on and she doesn't have a care in the world. And
Yeah.
yay.
Yay. I know.
Like,
Same. I'm so into that. And yes, absolutely. And when
yeah.
people like lose a lot of weight in Hollywood, I'm always like, okay, good for you, but I kind of liked you before, you know. But anyway,
It's something
whatever
about
people want to do.
yeah, the personality. And at this time, especially with Colleen and I on this podcast, we talk about health more than looking. Like if you want
Yes.
this way, it's about I want longevity, I want a health.
Yes, absolutely. I know my husband and I are living in Sydney at the moment because he's Australian. And we're just trying that out because he can get a lot of work there. And I don't know, we're just trying it out, but I'll end up back home. But it's been nice, but we're just working out, but it's purely for mobility and health. And if everything else starts not looking nice, great. And that's such a nice way. Like I love approaching it that way because the pressure's off and it doesn't feel like stressful, like have to, look good in that tank top. I don't know. I'm just like, I want to be able to move around and feel vibrant. So I don't know. I'm approaching it in such that way, like you were just talking about. It's such a nicer mentality because it makes the exercising easy, feel better in a weird way.
Right, right. It's not, oh, I did this and I don't look like this. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel so
Just
much
let that
better.
go and just try
Yeah,
to just do a little bit every week.
yes. So after, I'm gonna flip back to your marriage to Adam.
Hmm.
And, I another group, the Beastie Boys, hanging out with Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Beastie Boys. And he sounds like a lovely person. I mean, it
Hmm.
sounds like it was.
Hmm.
And I think you can tell a little bit about why, that was lovely and then it didn't end up working out.
Yeah, it just so yeah, I had the instinct to be married, which I actually love. So I like being married, but I was for me 21 was too young, and I found myself wanting to well just also go out. It was the 90s in New York. My brother was dating a model. It was this all of a sudden this going out seemed really fun to me. And I started dating women, and I just, for some reason, I don't know. I don't know why. I was in therapy trying to figure it out because I was like, what is this? I don't know what this means. But and Adam sort of saw what was happening and he said, "Look, I got my going out of the way. I'm ready to settle down, but you seem to be wanting to do it now. So you should do it." And I wanted to be married for the I loved him. I loved the security of it. It was a buffer from the outside world. We had this cozy life together. So I was like, let me just give me a minute, give me some time. And just a couple years passed and it wasn't going anywhere. I still wanted to go out and date. So we both were like, oh, because I don't know if we had met like 10 years or 20 years later, he might have been a great match. But I found somebody who's an amazing match, if not better, because I don't know. He's like very outgoing, and Adam and I were kind of shy and quiet. So I don't know. There's so many reasons why I'm so happy and I found somebody. So I did learn that I like being married when I was with Adam. But yeah, I was just experimental, and for some reason, I've always wanted to be with men for more of a proper relationship. For a little while, I thought maybe. I'll be married to a woman or something. But it just seemed to, for some reason, whatever, if there's a spectrum or something, I'm more inclined to want a relationship with men.
Yeah, it was. I really like that part too, because I feel like when people explain this or say this in their books or tell their stories, that there are other people that have probably gone through something similar and they're holding shame and they're holding this
Mm,
guilt.
yeah.
But it's another feeling of feeling like I'm not alone.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I hope so. Because I'm hard on myself, but I'm not judgmental, if that makes sense. I was very racked with guilt and confused. I didn't know what was going on, but there's something about me that I have a natural, maybe from my mother, I don't really judge, I don't judge. I mean, of course I judge in some ways, but I don't have it's not a moral issue for me. It's more just, learn about yourself, what's going on. I don't know, but I definitely was hard on myself and felt very guilty, but I also have like a understanding and compassion as well.
Right. And I do think a lot of people, maybe when other people share their stories like this, and they don't have to, but it's nice when they do, because that just does. It's like people are like, well, this happened to them too. And there's probably a whole lot of other people that similar things have happened to. And it's this, okay, let's quit being so hard on ourselves
Hmm.
and let's move on, because you can have a beautiful life. If
Yeah.
you never know, you could meet this wonderful person and have these wonderful children, and life can be really great. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to ask about Say Anything, because that was such
Hmm.
a, I don't know, it's iconic. I mean, it is
Yeah.
the boombox. Can you share about how John Cusack wasn't on board yet and how that song came to be in the movie?
Yeah, I did a couple of auditions. Like the first one I did, Cameron Crowe called and said, "You're going to come back. We want you to come back, but you have to try a little harder." Like I think I was scared and not giving it my all. So I gave him my all. I get the part, but Cameron Crowe said, I want John Cusack so bad, but he doesn't want to do a teen rom-com movie. He's done with those, and I need to explain that this is not that movie. And in fact, the movie was meant to be more a story about a father and a daughter, about how you can have this great relationship and then my character finds out that he's been embezzling, and how do you deal with that? But the love story became such a huge part because of the chemistry and just it was just such a beautiful love story. But we convinced John Cusack together that it wasn't a dumb movie, that it was going to be, well written and all of this. So then I was quite intimidated because he and Joan Cusack, who played his sister and his real life sister, they were just so smart and they'd been doing movies already and so kind of so intelligent and so good and so brave as actors, and I just wanted to be just as good as they were, and so that was kind of nerve-wracking. But I started once we filmed, I was starting to feel okay, I've got this. And then who knew that boombox scene? Like when we filmed it, we weren't like, this is the scene. It wasn't some I think films have set pieces, which I've learned late in life mean a big sort of series of scenes that are kind of, a lot of work and they involve a lot of, whatever, action or actors or things. And then they probably know, well, this sequence is going to be amazing. But with this movie, we had no idea this one scenario was going to capture the imagination of so many people. And so then, and the song, Cameron Crowe wanted an Elvis Costello song, and Elvis Costello passed on it. And we were really sad about that. I actually wasn't into Elvis Costello yet. I got into, so they were really sad. But then he got Peter Gabriel, that song, which turned out to be just perfect. Like
It
such
was.
a beautiful song, so big and so romantic, and the way John Cusack looks, it's so amazing because he was trying to look mad. His motivation was, you broke my heart. I'm mad at you. Like almost punishing. But Cameron didn't even change his director. And he's like, that is going to look like romantic. And it does.
God.
So even though like his John Cusack's motivation was a little more like rebellious, like, it just ended up looking like so romantic. So anyway, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, that's a scene every girl dreams of.
Yeah, I know.
She
I think
loves
people
that she can't have. It's funny when I was reading your book, you were talking about your first stepdad when you all moved. I can't remember now where you moved in the glass.
Connecticut and then to
Yes,
Topanga
Connecticut.
Canyon.
And you mentioned something about how he gave you a gift or brought gifts, but don't ask. And it reminded me of the dad in the story of Say Anything.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
know. It's so wild. Yes. And it's funny because when I started doing that scene, I was so young. I was like, wait, why am I sad about John Mahoney, what he's doing? Like, what is it? And then I was thinking, is it because I've had my first stepfather was kind of like that I'm immune to this? So I had to really convince myself, no, this is bad. You're upset. What your father did is bad. Like I almost couldn't understand like how bad that was, but maybe because of my childhood.
Yeah, that was, when you also mentioned in your childhood, you had friends that kind of had similar situations like Paris Jagger.
Hmm.
Can you talk about how, but hers was a little different from yours.
Yeah.
Can you share how that maybe what she had going on and then how it was different from what was happening to you?
Yes, yeah. So Karis Jagger also had a similar thing where her parents had her but weren't married, and her father more famous than mine, Mick Jagger. But early on, he was more interested in. He in fact is still all his kids. They go on holiday. He's like, "Welcome to the family." He's very good at that. He just is able to do that like all fathers should. But when I was young, she started knowing him when she was really little, like 6 or 7, which some people would say that's not that little. But Jerry Hall was sort of instrumental in really facilitating that because she was with Mick Jagger, and I think she's like, you have 2 daughters, and you don't see him as much as I would think you should. And I want to have a bunch of kids. She wanted like 10 kids. She said, if I'm going to have kids with you, you've got to be the kind of father I hope you're going to be with our kids. So I thought that was really cool. Instead of being threatened and let's pretend you don't have this family over there, she was like, you have to be seeing your daughters. So I always admired Jerry Hall for that. And he probably would have anyway, because he's watching from afar. He's really amazing at that. And then yeah, I think I was just studying it, really studying it. I don't know that I was thinking, why can't my father be like that necessarily? But I was just really watching her with her dad and what is that like? And so that was comforting and also, just interesting to see.
to see that. And I know now your mother remarried, had
Hmm.
another son. So you have a younger brother as well.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I was very happy for her. It's so
Oh, yes.
I
Yeah,
didn't know your mom at all, and I'm just so happy for her.
yeah, because Richard is great. He's just like solid and wonderful and finally my grandparents could relax and be, oh, finally she married this wonderful person. And they have, yeah, my little brother is almost 30 and it's been so nice. And it gave her, because she was a bit older at that point as a parent, but she's friends with all the moms. It gave her a younger group of girlfriends and they do each other's birthdays every birthday and they do ladies' lunches. And she just has this like nice, quote unquote normal life. And it's just been so good for her. They all do their exercise together and it's just really, really, really sweet.
That's wonderful. And then you do have a relationship now with your father.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's great. I mean, I'll always feel sad for myself when I was little. I'll always kind of not understand how could you not want to be involved. But seeing him and knowing him, I'm curious to know him. I like from the first time I met him, I wanted more. I wanted to know him, and he's a unique person, and he's so eccentric, and that almost helps. And every time I see he and my stepmother, I just like I think I said in the book, I sort of pretend I'm meeting, I know he's my father, but just some eccentric older friends. So there's a touching quality between us despite how complicated and strange it is. And I don't know. I just give him the not benefit of the doubt, but I don't give him a hard time.
Right. A
I'm like,
little bit of grace.
yeah,
Yeah.
just play that guitar and just,
Well, yeah,
let's
you did say
let's
he communicates better through song. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
just, and also and he is really actually very, very bright and interesting in the things that he knows about. So it's just very interesting to I just want to get to know him more and more and
yeah. I think it is pretty fascinating because you think back to the time in the 60s and where he traveled and where he went, and, to
hmm.
India with the Beatles
I know.
and
It,
everything like that. You're thinking
yeah.
that had to be, I mean, that's the time I was born. And I'm thinking that had to be crazy. I'm one of 12 kids, though, in Kentucky. Like that's
Yeah.
my life was completely different, but a very wild, different time,
Yes. Yes. I
completely.
know.
And
It's iconic. Yeah.
yes. And I would, before we go, we always ask our guests, because our audience is typically midlife women. And
Hmm.
we always ask how your midlife is going for you.
Yeah, well, it's big, yes, I have that simultaneous like caring less about what people think and feeling more and more confident, but also, dealing with aging and like we were talking about before about exercising and stuff. And all the menopause stuff is like so funny because I don't remember my mom. I just remember her saying, "Oh, I'll miss in a weird way having my period because I loved having babies and I liked being fertile." And I just remember noting, oh, the feeling like, oh, I can't do that anymore. That was all I remember her feeling the loss of. I can't, not that she was going to have another baby, but just like, oh, okay. But I did not know any of the other stuff like sleeplessness, anxiety, just all the physical things that, you know, I had another friend and she was just like, oh, get ready. And I was like, no. Then I had a teenager who was just sort of like getting her period for the first time, and we were both just like sensitive and emotional. But yeah, I am having the good side of midlife where I'm feeling, oh, this too shall pass. Oh, I really do know that. When people would say, don't worry, it'll, if you're having a hard time, I think, no, but I'm feeling bad right now, so now I really know in the morning, you're going to be fine and you're going to be okay, even if I'm like up in the night worrying. So it's nice. The wisdom is really getting there. And I like that so much. So yeah, I am kind of really enjoying all of that side of things. Just,
That is a great side of it. Would
yeah.
we've heard from a lot of our guests when they hit 60 that there's some kind of magical thing that's happening when you hit, like Helen Slater went back and got her PhD. Daphne Zuniga got married for the first time at 55, and all these. And I said, oh, I can't, I've never thought I would say, I can't wait to be 60.
Yes,
I'm
I
now
know. I
thinking,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah, I've always been someone to look to study people ahead, even with my marriage, which for some people is not long. It's like 16 or 17, but I'm also, studying like the empty nesters because I want to succeed. Like I want not, I need to succeed, but I want our marriage to last. So I'm even looking ahead. How do we deal with it then? Like, how do people keep things going? Because I'm like hearing that about being 60. It's just, yeah, planning ahead and looking forward to the parts that sound really good and the parts that I want to make sure that we're working on so that, we could keep it going and have a good marriage for long and all of those things. Yeah, that's cool.
it is. It's great. I've been an empty nester for, I can't think. My daughter graduated from college in 2018, so like 7 years, and it empty nesting hit me hard. I miss them so much. But now we do a lot of travel,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been married 33 years, and I was young. I was 23, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it was. I always say this. I love my husband. I love him to death. I might have waited. It married him, but I might have waited. Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but it was just
Yeah.
kind of like that's how things were done.
Sure.
Yeah, but I'd say empty nesting was the hardest for me. And oh, hot flashes and all that stuff was awful. But I've learned to deal with it. Met other women and met people really speaking out about this time of life and not making it taboo. So that's been really great.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
like being alone. I was someone, if you read the book, I couldn't be alone. I liked, like, my therapy dog was a person, I just needed. And now, when I get like even this publicity tour, I've been away for a month, I'm fine. I'm enjoying my alone time. I don't have the puppy and the teenager and, my husband, who I actually love, and he actually doesn't bother me ever. But, well, we're sure he does sometimes. But I'm really learned how to also like my alone time, which is really nice to know. Because I
yeah.
was worried for a while. I thought, will I never enjoy like alone time? And now I'm like, oh, I get it. This is wonderful. So I feel like I know how to do that too.
Yes, no, I know exactly how you feel. Yeah, just having those moments are great.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining
Oh,
Flashes and Cool Topics. This has been really
yeah.
a wonderful conversation. And you guys, you've got to check out Ione Skye's Say Everything a Memoir because it is really, I don't know, if you grew up like I did and when I did, most of you did, you're going to really, it's going to take you back to these times and you're going to really have some feeling. You're just going to have some empathy and some feelings from another fellow Gen Xer. So thank you so much,
Yay.
Ione
Oh,
Skye.
so good to talk to you.